Jessi, thank you so much. Uh,
Mhm.
I think this is awesome. So the two questions again are, you okay with us sharing this recording of your story publicly?
Yes.
Thank you. Can you or anyone you may mention face legal prosecution or get in trouble for anything that you might share in this story?
No.
Sweet. I don't think so either. Okay, time is yours to introduce yourself however you want and take the floor. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jessi, and I'm an addict and alcoholic in recovery. I'm also a survivor. When I say survivor, I want you to understand exactly what that means. I didn't just, you know, use, and I didn't just destroy my life or my children's lives. I've survived everything from attempted murder to domestic violence, human trafficking, self harm, mental illness, eating disorders, you name it, I've done it. My story, to get the full picture, we're going to have to start at the beginning, the very beginning. My first memory, my first earliest memory, wasn't a happy one. My dad was narcissistic, and my mom, the only thing she ever wanted to be was a mom. That really wasn't going to work out for my dad. They fought. He hurt her. She hurt him. And the end result was that she went to work one day, got a phone call letting her know that a laundry basket with her clothing was at the Holiday Inn and that her kids were gone. I was too young to really understood what that meant. However, I knew that I didn't have a mom. Growing up, my grandparents were wonderful people. However, back then, they sided with my dad. And every single day, instead of hearing about how amazing we were and how much they loved us, it was a constant, your mom is a piece of shit. Your mom left you. Your mom didn't even want you. I was a little girl. The only thing I wanted was my mom. Unfortunately, she was broken herself, but she loved us the best that she could. You know that whole mom thing. As long as I can love them through it. She chased us and chased us and then chased us some more. When I was 7, I thought that things were finally going to settle down. Lived with my grandparents and my dad, saw my mom occasionally. It wasn't great, but I was pretty sure for a 7-year-old that it was about the best that it was ever going to get. I was really fucking wrong. My dad met this woman named Linda. And step bitch doesn't even quite sum it up. The woman was evil. And there's absolutely no other way to explain that. She had lost her 2 teenage boys to the state for sexual deviation. For anybody that doesn't know, it means she's having sex with her own kids. Yeah, disturbing, right? My dad helped that woman get her kids back, put them back into that situation. And it didn't stop there. Like he did before he packed us up in the middle of the night and he disappeared. I don't remember why we left. The only thing that I really knew is that on that day, I was wearing my favorite California Raisins t-shirt, some turquoise shimmer spandex pants, and I was going to school. But I didn't go to school. We briefly stopped at the school. And it was right then and right there that I remember looking at my older brother and saying, we're leaving again. He moved us all the way to Oklahoma, from Pennsylvania to Oklahoma. And we were not even allowed to call my mom and let her know. A 7-year-old and 9-year-old were in a hotel room somewhere in Indiana trying to figure out how to work the hotel room telephone so that we could call our mom and let her know that we were already gone. I'm pretty sure it killed her when she found out that we were no longer in the state. While we lived in Oklahoma, things were bad. Actually, bad is not even an appropriate way to describe that. It was fucking horrific. Linda was emotionally abusive. She was mentally abusive. And unfortunately, she was sexually abusive. I mean, obviously, she had lost her own kids. What she did to her boys changed them forever. And you know that saying, hurt people hurt people? That's exactly what happened. I remember being so excited. It's about 7.5 by this time. And we went out to the garage because her boys had a surprise for my brother and I. Everything had always been so bad. Surprise, fuck yeah. It was a tent fort that they had built in the garage, specifically for my brother and I. Still to this day, at 35 years old, I can't even enter a tent. Can't even look at one. Every single day, her boys would take my brother and I, and we would go out to the garage and we would play. Only it wasn't the kind of playing that a 7, 9-year-old and 2 teenage boys should have been doing. That was my first real experience. And I learned very young that people only wanted me for one thing. What was that one thing? My body and my face. Because, oh, and I heard it every day that I was absolutely beautiful. Those 2 teenage boys would absolutely have their way with me. And that wasn't bad enough, they would make my brother watch. Force him, very literally. And if we didn't comply, it got violent, and it got violent very, very quickly. That went on for over 2.5 years. My dad finally left that woman but not for the reasons that you would think. It wasn't because his children had completely changed physically, emotionally, and mentally. No, that didn't matter. My dad found out that she was cheating on him. So, like he always did, packed us up in the middle of the night and ran again. We came right back to Pennsylvania and right back to my mother who was waiting for us. Still, to this very day, if you ask my mother, she'll tell you the first time she saw her children, she knew. She knew that something very, very wrong had happened to us. She brought us treats to school, and we hid from her. Now, after not seeing her for 2.5 years, you would think that the only thing we would want was to hug her and hold her. That wasn't the case at all. By that point, my siblings and I, we had already developed serious post-traumatic stress, something called touch aversion. If you don't know what that is, it very literally means you form a negative response to any sort of touch, not just bad. You can't hug someone out of love or compassion or hold someone's hand just to let them know that you're there. That didn't exist for us anymore. And I wish I could tell you that my parents got us help, but that simply wasn't the case. This was back in the early 90s. Things were a lot different back then. Nowadays, we talk about trauma, we talk about mental illness. They want you to be open, they want you to seek help. Back in the 90s, things just weren't that way. My mother took us to be evaluated twice. And on both occasions, she was told that there was absolutely nothing wrong with her children other than that they were being heavily disciplined. Oh, we absolutely were being heavily disciplined. Unfortunately, in my childhood years, there were no safe spaces. If I was at my grandparents' house, then I was with my dad. And he was extremely abusive, physically, mentally, emotionally. I was about 10 whenever I recall him beating the fists out of my brother because my brother touched his weight bench. The crazy thing about all that, my brother wanted to work out so that he could get tough. He could fight back. So that he could protect us in a way that nobody else ever was going to. If we were at my mom's, even worse. No, she wasn't abusive. And she was absolutely loving and compassionate and strong. However, my entire life, she had only ever accepted the love that she felt she deserved. Considering her childhood was nothing but trauma as well, I bet you can guess. If I wasn't getting the shit beat out of me, then I was watching it happen to my mom. It broke my heart. But that's not all it did. It literally became everything and anything that I ever knew. For me, once I hit about 12, I really made the strong connection that I was pretty and that people liked that. I used it to my advantage every chance I could. On the contrary, that meant people took advantage of me all the time. I started using substances regularly when I was about 12. I was a full-blown alcoholic by the time I was 13. For me, there was no choice. I remember the first time I hit a J, I was 10. And I remember feeling better. And I chased that for the rest of my life. It was the only thing that had ever made me feel better. Some sort of substance. And obviously, because I made the connection at 12 to use myself physically, I really had to use, I had to drink. I had to do anything so that I could participate. Otherwise, I couldn't even do it. At 35 years old, I can literally say that I can count on one hand the times that I have been with somebody intimately sober. The thought terrifies me. When I was 15, I had my first day in inpatient psych. Guess what? That was my 15th birthday present. Very literally. I was pulled into the principal's office at school, and he sat and he talked to me like everything was normal. And then my mom and dad walked in. Because by 15, I had developed another addiction, self-harm. I was cutting myself everywhere and anywhere, and I didn't care who saw it. It wasn't something I tried to hide. By 15, I was done being a physical object. And I truly thought that if I mutilated myself, then nobody would want to bother with me. I mean, right? Who would want the girl that was covered in cuts and burns and scars? It was dead ass wrong. When I got home from the hospital, everything in my life changed. I wasn't allowed home. I had to go stay with family in the city about an hour away. Everything changed. But I dealt with it, right? Because that's what I did. Life was never going to be great for me. I had resonated with that years ago. I knew that there was nothing great that was coming. And then when I was 16, I took another blow. My mom decided that there was nothing left for her in Pennsylvania. And this time, she ran away. I wasn't able to handle that very well. I stopped going to school. And the only thing I did was drink and smoke pot and do lines of coke on my kitchen table in front of my little sister. I slept with a different person every night and honestly couldn't even tell you who half of them were. Didn't care. For me, it was just another way to numb what I didn't want to feel, which was more pain. About 6 months after my mom moved, I decided that that was it. I couldn't survive without her. So I went to Illinois. And when I got there, it wasn't my mom that I had. In her place was a very broken, very alcoholic friend. I no longer had a mom. I had someone that I could party with, and I had someone who thought that I was old enough to manage my own life. And so I did. One night she went to work and she bought me a bottle of vodka. Said, Jess, here, have some friends over. Just, you know the rules. Don't leave the house. Fuck those rules. Fuck those rules. So I left the house. Found myself at a house party. And like I always did, found myself in a bedroom with somebody I didn't even know. That person that I didn't even know, my son Gavin's father. I got pregnant at 17. And my world came crashing down. How in the hell was I going to raise a kid? It terrified me. My whole life had been nothing but one series of bad events after the other. I didn't want that. But there was something that I couldn't let go of. Love. The love that I felt for that peanut shaped alien thing in my stomach. Oddly enough, that man that I didn't know, he hunted me down, found me at work, told me that he couldn't stop thinking about me and that he didn't even know my name. Hi, my name's Jazz. I'm pregnant. Surprise! I really tried to make it work with Gavin's dad. I mean, I really, really tried. I dropped out of school and went to night school. I graduated before the rest of my high school class even walked that stage. I had Gavin, kept working, kept going to school, and I got married because in Southern Illinois, teenager or not, it's different culture. If you get married or if you get pregnant, you're getting married. That's just how it works. And for a moment, just a moment, I thought that maybe this is what life is supposed to look like. Maybe this is it. Until life inevitably kicked me in the ass again. Found out Nick was having an affair. And not only had he had an affair, but she was pregnant. My life exploded again. bet you can guess what I did. I turned to what I knew: drugs, alcohol, men. I wish that I could say that Gavin's years were amazing and full of hope and joy and love. But that simply wasn't the case. Eventually, I found somebody else. His name was Tom. And boy, did I think he was the one. You know that story, right? Your eyes lock and he's your soulmate, right? I married him too. Got pregnant. Had another kid. And then I got sick. And I found out that that loving, caring soulmate wasn't that at all. It was an act. And as I got sicker, he lost his patience. The biggest regret that I will ever hold with me is that while I was being abused, I became tolerable to my own son's abuse. I watched it. I watched it happen. I watched my child slip away. And he watched me die slowly. By that time, I had found opiate pain medication. And I used it. Oh, I numbed all of my pain. I used to snort those pills in front of my son. Didn't think twice. Why? I mean, I didn't really need a reason. But if I had to give one, it was probably because we lived in hell. It wasn't bad enough that Tom was beating the shit out of us or cheating on me every single waking moment. He let his mom become abusive to us. And I can tell you that that was one of the worst feelings in the world. Knowing that by the time I got done getting my shit rocked from one, the other one was waiting. It was like a tag team, reigning champs. About 4 years ago, after the cheating and after the beatings, I found out that Tom was chasing this girl named Rachel. And I couldn't figure it out, right? There was something about her. She was a heroin addict. My little mentally ill, traumatized brain very literally thought, oh, okay. Well, I mean, he wants her and she does that. And I'm already taking pills. So why not? He loved heroin addicted prostitutes. So I became exactly that. Want to know the irony in that? He still didn't want me anyway. I still wasn't what he wanted. And I was never going to be. I tried to leave him time and time and time again. He would take my son and run. Maddox and I didn't miss weeks or months, missed years. And every time I would start to do well, because life would have to move on. I couldn't lay in my bed and cry forever. I'd get a job, I'd get clean. And here would come Tom and Maddox. You see, I saved Gavin. I made him move to Illinois, far, far away from me and the pain that I would keep inflicting on him. I knew I was just going to keep hurting him over and over and over again. My son's a musician, an amazing one. And he wrote a song called Save Me. And it's a difficult listen. But if you can find the strength to get through it, you'll find that it saved my life. Literally saved my life. On November 6th, 2020, I decided for the last time, never again. Never again was I going to be a punching bag. Never again was I going to sit in my bedroom after I put my kids to sleep and try and overdose. Never again was I going to have somebody look at me and tell me that I didn't even deserve to breathe the oxygen that was in my lungs. So I went and got clean. And when I got clean, I got pissed. I left rehab and I walked back into that hell one last time. It took me 6 months, the longest 6 months that I will ever live. And on May 19th, 2021, I was able to put my arm around Maddox and walk the fuck out of that door for good. Today, I am exactly 260 days sober and 66 days free. If you find that my story is your story, I invite you. Reach out to me, get in touch. You can find me on Instagram at authentically.jessi. You'll find I have a women's meeting called Surviving Beauty. Why? Because there is beauty in surviving. If you're a survivor, you are the baddest motherfucker on the planet. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, ever. My meeting meets every single day at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Zoom. I'm only ever a phone call, a DM, or a comment away. I'm going to wrap this up the same way I wrap my groups up. Alone, I cannot. Together, we absolutely can. We will, and we do recover.